What's up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to Speedy's Garage. Today we're taking a little field trip. We had some weather come through Middle Tennessee, unfortunately. Some tornadoes pretty badly damaged the city of Nashville and some of the surrounding areas. I really appreciate all of you guys that reached out to me on Instagram and Facebook and sent me some emails checking in on Mrs. Speedy and I. I'm happy to say that we were blessed and we're good to go. We didn't have any issues at all. It actually just split, went right around us in the shop, so everything is good to go there. But please keep the people of the city of Nashville in your prayers. A lot of people are homeless, a lot of destruction, a lot of damage. Several schools were destroyed. They're going to figure out where those children will start going to school. I think they're on spring break this week, but they'll have to figure that out for next week. So a lot going on here in Middle Tennessee. I appreciate you guys checking in on us. And as part of that, the weather in this part of the country gets really odd this time of year. It'll go from almost 70 degrees one day to about 40 the next, and that's exactly...
Watch out, pothole on road ahead.
Okay, and that's exactly what has happened. Front came through and it's super windy, so I'm going to apologize in advance for the sound quality. You guys may hear a lot of the wind noise. We're in Project Sport Runner, which I've started to nickname Old Faithful. It's almost 20 years old. It doesn't have all of the wind noise abatement technology that some of the newer cars have, so y'all are going to hear some wind noise. Apologies in advance for that. So race season is literally right around the corner. Spring is just about to have sprung, and we'll be getting Go Man Go back to the track. Remember last season we were just starting to dial in our race tune, and it just started to kind of scratch the surface on that. So I've got some plans to get to the track and kind of finalize those race tunes, and I plan to have more than one. I'll have them kind of set where I know in the specific weather I race in what the ET or close to what the ET in mile per hour will be, and that way when I'm competing at events I can know which tune to load for the class that I'm racing in. There might be a 10.5 class, I need to slow down a little bit. There might be a 10.0 class, which might be a middle tune, and then I might have a unlimited all-out class where I'm going to run in the nines. You know, I don't know what my end goal will be or how fast we can actually get the car to go, but it ran a 983 on a real baby tune-up at the end of last season, so that's going to kind of be the starting point to see where we can get to when we start really getting into some of the race tunes where we're putting some timing into the race fuel. So that leads me to today's topic. I'm on a field trip. I'm heading up to Renegade Race Fuel. They're also the Challenger Fest race fuel sponsor for 2020. They were the Challenger Fest race fuel sponsor for 2019 as well. It kind of works out good because they also are linked up with Beach Bend, where we actually have Challenger Fest. So they're the fuel that's there available at the track. This season I'm going to run their RM109 product, which is an unleaded race fuel. I'll go look up the tech specs and I'll post them in here. I believe it's like 100 octane if you do the motor octane method. If you do the R/M+2, which is how they are measured at the tank, or at the pump rather, I believe it's 107 octane. And then I believe if you do research octane, and like I said, if I misstate any of this, I'll correct it in the text here, but I believe the research octane is 103. So it's a pretty good fuel. Unleaded, so we don't have to worry about cats or sensors or anything of that nature. I was running a little bit of a mixture last year where I would put in like 5 gallons of the RM109 and then 2 gallons of their 112 Plus, which is a leaded product. And the idea was that the mixing it would dilute the lead enough that I wouldn't have any issues, and I never really did. But on a couple of occasions when I was driving home from the track, I would get a check engine light for catalyst efficiency, and I would just clear it and it would never come back. But I wondered if it had to do, maybe my car was a little bit more sensitive to the lead content, or maybe the way I've tuned the car. I run mine just a little bit richer than some people do. I like about an 11.5 to 11.6 air fuel ratio, or a 0.83 to 0.84 lambda in my car. Some people run them a little bit leaner than that, 11.8, 11.9, and maybe that little bit more richness that I have in my tune maybe was getting a little bit more lead in those cats or something like that, or impacting the rear O2 sensor. So this season I'm just going to run the RM109 unleaded. So we're headed out to pick that up in Kentucky. I'm lucky that I'm going to call it a refinery, but I don't know if that's exactly right. I don't know if they actually refine the products, but they definitely package them right in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and it's literally about a mile from Beach Bend. So very convenient, and it's about an hour from my shop, so real quick for me to run up there, pick up what I need for the season, and then get back to the shop in the same day. And if you're going to be serious about going to the drag strip, or even if you're not going to be serious, if you're just going to take your car to the drag strip a few times, I highly recommend you use a proper fuel in the car. I did a little bit of testing on 93, and You guys know I had a failure of an engine. I don't think it was fuel related because I had such a conservative tune in the car. But I don't recommend racing your car on 93 and definitely not 91, especially if you have a Hellcat Red Eye Demon or Trackhawk, something that's supercharged. If you're going to be leaning on that car, you need to have good fuel in it so that you know you're okay and you're not going to have any issues. And I know Dodge says, you know, hey, it's warranted and you can do this and that, but if you break something or if you have an issue, number one, unless you have a demon,
watch out, pothole on road ahead.
Unless you have, I have to turn that off. Unless you have a demon, your warranty is not covered, doesn't cover you on the drag strip. Dodge is not sponsoring you as a race car. So again, sorry about the wind. So if you take your car to the track and it breaks, and unless you're going to be unethical and not be honest about how it broke and what you were doing, you know, I'm not going to do that. If I break my car at the drag strip, it's on me. Just like you saw, I paid to replace my own engine when it blew up. Unless you're going to be unethical about it, you're on your own anyway, number one. Number two, I literally data logged my stock car when it, you know, my stock Hellcat 2016, and I was getting 3 to 4 degrees of short-term knock retard, which is not good on the stock tune running 93 octane. And so I know they made some changes to the tunes. Dodge has dialed those back a little bit in the 2017, 2018, and 2019 models, but you're still better safe than sorry and run a good fuel in the car. It's just cheap insurance. I would recommend getting your octane up to at least 100. So if you put a little bit of 93 or 91 in the tank, you can go onto an online calculator and figure out how much of your race octane, mine's like 107 like I said, and I'll figure out the calculation to get it up to about 100 octane, and at that point you're pretty well safe on the stock tune. If you're going to put a custom tune in the car, obviously use whatever octane mix that your tuner recommends. Mike works with me, and if we want to go lean on the car a little bit, we'll raise that octane up maybe to about 105, and that'll be pretty much just putting straight RM109 in the tank with very, very little, almost running it empty on 93 and then filling it back up, or putting 5 to 7 gallons of the RM109 in the tank. And there's been some discussion about these fuel additives like butane or octanium or Torco, and I actually tested it because I was curious. I'm one of these people who likes to find out for myself, and so the one I chose to work with was butane, and I forget the ratio now. I think it would be 2 ounces to a half tank of fuel was getting me up to around 98 to 100 octane. And I tested it, and sure enough, it did make all of any short-term knock retard I had in my data logs go away. I tested it in the heat of the summer and was kind of curious about that. I was able to add a degree or two of timing and still didn't get any knock retard, so I knew it worked. But after running that half a tank through the car, I pulled my spark plugs out, or a couple of spark plugs just to check them, and they were orange. And that's a result of the MMT, and I'll list the full name of what that is, but the abbreviation is MMT, and it's like a heavy metal that is often put in those products, and that's how they get the octane out of them. And at least for the Hellcat, they specifically call out not to use those products. They have concerns about fouling spark plugs or fouling out O2 sensors or causing catalytic converter problems. Now you may run it. There's some gentlemen on the Hellcat forum. All the cool kids hang out at hellcatforum.org. Or if you haven't checked that out or not a member, I highly recommend you go over and create an account and log in. Tons of good information. But a gentleman ran butane for a year in every tank, and he never had any issues. So I will say that. It did turn his spark plugs orange too, and probably if you were to pull the heads off the intake valves and the exhaust valves would probably be orange, and the catalytic converters and O2 sensors probably have an orange tint to them. Who knows if it's a problem? It's a different color soot. If you use regular gasoline, the soot's gray or black. This happens to be orange. I don't personally know if it's an issue, but the owner's manual does specifically call out not to use products that contain MMT. And so if you're going to use an octane booster of some sort, you want to make sure, or at least decide deliberately that you're going to use one that has MMT in it, even though the owner's manual says that you're not to do that. So you have to make that decision on your own. I'm not real wild about octane boosters. I used it in a pinch and as an experiment. I probably have about a half of the can left. I'll give it away to somebody more than likely, or I may just keep it on hand in case I get into a tight spot where I don't happen to have any race fuel on hand and I have to use it just to be safe. I guess if I had to pick between no race gas or adding, you know, a little bit of the butane to my tank, I'd probably add the butane if I was at a racing event that didn't have race fuel. But I'm going to make sure I have race fuel on hand when I go to the track. So that's my personal opinion on it. You'll have to figure out what you want to do on your car. And I have had really good luck with the Renegade Race Fuels. I've probably been running their product for probably 10, maybe 11 years. We tuned
Watch out, vehicle stopped on shoulder ahead.
I gotta turn that off. We tuned Orange Crush on the dyno with it at Challenger Fest 4, and Mike was very surprised at how well it worked. He liked it better than other fuels he had used, and the fact that it was unleaded made it kind of a no-brainer for my car. My car is primarily a street car. If you have a race car and you don't have catalytic converters, or you took those off for whatever reason and you just go to the track with it, you could probably run a leaded fuel like their 112 and never have any problems. But like I said, I'm just going to stick with their RM109 product. And with that said, let's get up here to Kentucky and pick up our fuel. And geez, this thing's like driving a shoebox in all this wind. Good grief, my knuckle.
Couldn't have got that any more better.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Have a good rest of your day.
Yep, you too.
Well, mission accomplished. We got our race fuel for the season. I picked up 10 5-gallon pails because this season I intend to race quite a bit. I've got several events on my calendar. Now we're just going to make the mad dash back to Middle Tennessee and hopefully beat the rush hour traffic. So I did get the specs a little wrong earlier on this fuel. The Renegade RM109 fuel has a R+M/2 octane rating, which is the exact same way they measured at the pump, of 107. The motor octane is 100 and the research octane is 114. Again, it is an unleaded fuel. I'm back at the shop. We got a Renegade Race Fuel put away. So it really comes down to what you're comfortable with. Are you comfortable with some deposits left by some of these fuel additives? This is the butane I mentioned earlier. I think I've only used about 3 or 4 ounces out of this whole can, and I've had it probably a year. When I noticed it was turning my spark plugs orange, it made me a little uncomfortable, and I'm gonna just stick with regular old race gas. Now, some of you may say, well, this is super convenient, and you're right, it is. It's a lot easier to carry around a 32-ounce jar than it is a 5-gallon can of fuel. But if you're running this every day, it's probably not a big deal to keep a couple of 5-gallon cans of real race fuel around. Again, I like the unleaded kind. And then you fill up your tank halfway with 93 or heaven forbid 91, and then you add in a couple of gallons of your race gas to bring that octane up. If you're leaning on the car or you're driving it hard, you probably want to keep a little bit of extra insurance in the tank. I hope you found this video useful. Be sure to give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedy's_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net. And hopefully, I will see you out there.